Our top story this morning, a Billings street is blocked off after a large rock slide from the rim sends a boulder tumbling down into a home below. Take a look at this picture. Taken by homeowner Sherry Lee, a boulder smashed half of her SUV and destroyed her garage on Mountain View Boulevard. Lee was home when the slide happened around 9:45 last night. She also operates Res Dog Rescue and says all of the pets staying at her home are safe. Mountain View Boulevard is located off of North 27th Street and loops around MSUB's Alterowitz Gym and Avitas Group Stadium. The upper part is blocked by the slide, currently closed off to traffic. Homes in the area are currently without power. According to a Billings Police Department press release, the garage to Lee's home was the only damaged structure and there were no injuries. Switching now to today's national headlines, voters in several states have made their voices heard in Tuesday's key primary races. In New York, political newcomer Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pulled off a stunning upset against incumbent Democratic Representative Joe Crowley. Former presidential candidate Mitt Romney won the Republican primary for a Utah Senate seat. And the Supreme Court has upheld the latest version of President Trump's travel ban. The policy, which took effect in December, applies to 5 mostly Muslim countries and also affects North Korea and Venezuela. Chief Justice John Roberts said the travel ban was squarely within the scope of presidential authority to protect national security. The U.S. Senate is now debating its version of the 2018 Farm Bill. Montana senators say so far the measure contains plenty of good news for Montana farmers and ranchers. Republican Steve Daines spoke with Montana reporters by phone about the status and progress of the bill. He says the Senate hopes to get it passed by next week, setting up a House-Senate panel to hammer out a final version by summer's end. Daines says the Senate bill includes crop insurance, a sugar program, funding for ag research stations, and authority for states to legalize hemp as an agricultural commodity. Democrat John Tester says the measure will be a strong safety net for farmers, especially in the face of new tariffs that are causing uncertainty and driving down some prices. For food stamp recipients, Daines says he supports work requirements in the House version, but those requirements are not included in the Senate bill.
The idea here is recognize there may be disputes about the law. Let's look at a pilot program and test this idea of arbitration instead of litigation. The people of Montana are losing because of this litigious nature from these extreme environmental groups.
Well, I think the Senate Farm Bill does a couple things really well. It provides a safety net for times when Mother Nature deals a drought upon us, and helps when prices are low in the market. This is particularly important right now because of the tariff conversation, potentially driving prices down at the farm gate. And then the Senate bill also provides food for kids who are hungry, which I think is really important. So I look forward to the Senate bill passing this week, giving farmers the kind of certainty that they need in agriculture.
Daines says he's not sure which of the many possible amendments may pass the Senate. Back here in Billings, the city has approved its $320 million budget for the coming fiscal year. It includes new 3-year collective bargaining agreements for police and fire personnel, $2 million in reserve funds to begin improvements on Centennial Park on the city's west end, and the council agreed to levy the maximum amount of mills allowed in the city's charter. The taxes will be used to offset the loss of revenue from city franchise fees, which are the subject of a current court challenge. Mayor Bill Cole says the bottom line is the cost of local government is going up, but says the new 3-year collective bargaining agreements give the budget important stability moving forward.
We also locked in agreements with the police department, the police officers, and the fire department. So that's a big deal, and they're going to get 2.9% increases each year for the next 3 years. And that's about what inflation is. It might even be a little bit less than what they predict for inflation. Of course, we don't know what that's going to be, but for most city employees in those departments, that will be the only increase they will see because they're already at their maximum level of seniority.
Mayor Cole will present the annual State of the City address today at the City County Luncheon at the Northern Hotel beginning at 11:30. County Commissioner John Oslin will also present the State of the County address. In campaign news, supporters of Initiative 186 used a boat to deliver copies of signatures to the state capitol Tuesday to show the overwhelming support for the proposed ballot measure that would increase regulations of mining permits. I-186 organizers say they have gathered 45,000 1,000 signatures, nearly 20,000 more than required to qualify the measure for the November ballot. If passed, I-186 would require DEQ to deny a permit for any new hard rock mine unless they can prove it will not require perpetual treatment of polluted water.
I think, based on previous mining history and kind of corporate responsibility, a lot of people are justifiably concerned.
Opponents of the initiative say I-186 is unnecessary and only exists to tie up the mining industry in endless litigation. They claim if the initiative passes, it could deter potential investment in any new mining operation. One person is in the hospital following a two-car crash near the Billings Public Library. The crash happened around 5 o'clock Tuesday night at the intersection of 6th Avenue North and North Broadway. The force of the crash tipped one of the vehicles on its side. The person transported from the scene by ambulance was pinned inside the other vehicle for a short time. As responders worked to free the man, traffic backed up along 6th and North Broadway. Within a few minutes, the injured man was successfully freed from the wreckage and transported to the hospital. No word yet on what caused the crash or the man's condition. In other news, as we get closer to the 4th of July holiday, we're seeing more fireworks stands pop up around the city. But Billings officials are quick to remind people about the law. Historically, it's been against the law to use and possess fireworks within the city limit of Billings. Billings Fire Chief Bill Rash says the ban is primarily for safety reasons, and there's the potential for a devastating fire in an urban setting where a chain reaction fire is possible. As for possessing fireworks, the city has a zero tolerance policy. And just a reminder, the rims will be closed to the public for the 4th of July holiday this year. The fire department tested the waters last year, opening the rims over the 4th, but even though there were no major incidents, the fire department says closing off the rims is in the city's best interest. Well, new research from AAA shows Apple CarPlay and Google's Android Auto are less distracting for drivers compared to a car's built-in infotainment system. But there are certain tasks that are still very distracting using all types of systems. CBS News correspondent Kenneth Craig has the results of the study from New York.
Calling 801.
New AAA research shows just how distracting it can be for drivers to use infotainment systems to perform complex tasks.
Stop sign. Thank you.
From nearly missing a stop sign
Jump for the person
to being unaware of a pedestrian.
Wait. Sorry.
To swerving into the opposite lane. But researchers say drivers are less distracted when using Apple CarPlay and Google's Android Auto compared to systems that come built into vehicles.
Call Jack Olson.
Drivers can make calls about 5 seconds faster.
Directions to the closest library.
And program navigation about 15 seconds faster.
Both Android Auto and CarPlay have developed systems that are far easier to use. They take a shorter period of time to be able to perform very similar kinds of activities.
The closest one I see is restroom on West 170th Street.
Researchers found most tasks using CarPlay and Android Auto require a moderate level of attention compared to very high for built-in systems. But for complex tasks like navigating, researchers say all the systems require a very high level of your attention. They say it's like trying to balance a checkbook while driving.
I would recommend that the driver program those navigation systems before they start to drive. Even though you can do some of these features while the vehicle's in motion, that doesn't mean that you should, nor does it mean that it's safe.
It's estimated that drivers who take their eyes off the road for more than 2 seconds double their risk of a crash. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
Distracted driving injures about 390,000 people a year and causes about 3,500 deaths.